Welcome to everybody who is tuning in to us over the internet as well. We're so glad to have you with us here virtually in Spain, and remember to continue to talk to us via social media using hashtag Cisco Live Europe, C-L-E-U-R, CLUR. I promise if you talk to us, we will talk back to you. We're so glad to have you here with us. Just finished a terrific segment talking about digital transformation. We're going to make a shift right now and start beginning a discussion on cloud. We've got a lot that we're going to cover over the next half hour as far as cloud goes. Before we start to dive into the content of cloud, I want to talk about these innovation showcases. The first showcase that is coming up at about 20 minutes past 12, which according to my clock is less than 30 minutes from now. We're going to talk about enabling a multi-cloud world. We've got Liz Santoni and Kip Compton with us. Having the right cloud strategy, this is such a crucial thing. We used to talk about fear of getting to the cloud. What type of cloud? Do I put all of my information in one cloud or do I divide? Is it a public cloud, a private cloud? We are now in a multi-cloud environment. Most organizations find that approach, using the multi-cloud approach, that's what gives them that flexibility that they really need, not just to thrive, but also take advantage of every opportunity available to them to innovate. So once again, that Cloud Content Innovation Showcase, that will begin at 20 minutes past 12. That's in the CMAX Theater, which is down at the far end of the world of solutions. We encourage all of you to join us. If you are live here on the show floor and you're seeing this broadcast in real time, make your way on down to the end of the world of solutions. For those of you tuning in from all around the world, we're going to bring that content to you live when it kicks off just about 25 minutes from now. Other great innovation showcases coming up throughout the day as well. If you're not sure what to check out, make sure that you have downloaded the Cisco Events app. If you haven't done that yet, that is your portal. That is your key to getting all of the information that you need and getting exactly where you need to go. So check that out. As things change, shift, if you need to sign up for sessions, you're going to do all of that on the Cisco Events app. So make sure that you make that happen as well. All right, so if we start this conversation on cloud, it's a really, really rich world. There's so many benefits to taking advantage of cloud. Now, what Rowan talked about in the keynote yesterday morning is that as that cloud exposure becomes greater, so does the surface of potential threat to the industry. So doing cloud right is a big part of having that conversation about cloud in the first place. We've got a lot of different great cloud solutions here at Cisco, of course, and we encourage you to take advantage of those. But the idea is, don't let the fear of cloud stand in the way of taking advantage of the benefits of cloud. We can bring together all those capabilities on the networking side, security, analytics, management, work across your multi-cloud environment to help you simplify, secure, really optimize the way that you work. This is, again, on the private cloud side, on the managed solutions side, the hybrid and public cloud solutions side, and this approaches a lot of different capabilities that we offer here at Cisco. So it's not just working within digitization, sending applications to the cloud, deriving benefit from the cloud. It touches on a number of our other solutions and products as well. Application management. For example, if we look at business performance, at actionable intelligence, whether you're looking for better protection for your firm, whether it is about securing connections within the organization, securing cloud access, evolving your infrastructure toward the digital reality that we just talked about a moment ago with Didi Dasgupta. All of these are benefits of moving toward cloud, and again, we're going to be tackling a lot of that in the upcoming Innovation Showcase. All right, so if I dive in and I take a look at what is coming up next year in our schedule, are we going to video here at this point? I'm not quite sure what is coming up on this point. All right, great. So we're going to go to our next video here. We do have Kip in that video. We're just going to throw directly to it because my notes aren't right where I need them to be, but the video is going to speak for itself. Let's toss out to that VT right now.
Hi, I'm here with Kip and Bob. We're going to talk about the Google-Cisco partnership, how Google Cloud is working with Cisco and vice versa. Kip, tell us a little bit more about this partnership.
Yeah, sure. You know, we announced it in October, and the feedback has been tremendous. And basically, we announced what we think is the industry's first open hybrid cloud solution. And this is a solution that uses open source technologies, like Kubernetes and Istio, to deliver a seamless on-premise and in the cloud with Google Cloud solution for customers. And we think it's really important because it's an open solution, it's really a multi-cloud solution. Mm-hmm. We're working closely with Google Cloud to optimize it for Google Cloud, but it'll also work in other clouds. And it takes advantage of lots of Cisco technologies, including the Cisco container platform that we just announced this morning, and our HyperFlex platform that we announced last week.
Fantastic, so I'd love to hear that on-premises cloud, people don't have to have separate skill sets necessarily to manage everything. Bob, what is your thought about how Google Cloud can really help the enterprise customers then?
Yeah, so Google and Cisco have actually been enterprise partners for a very long time. Cisco was actually our first enterprise customer, partner a while ago. So I think we see the world kind of the same way, is we want you to be able to develop in the cloud or on-prem, run workloads wherever they need to run, particularly in Europe, there's a lot of regulations that are really important. So having a partner like Cisco brings the enterprise the best of both worlds. They can get access to Google technology and our innovation, as well as sticking with Cisco, who's going to always give you a secure, reliable infrastructure that we're actually co-engineering together. Our engineers work really closely with Kip's team. We actually give Cisco the same flags for Kubernetes that we use in our own managed service. So we're working really closely together. The customer demand has been really good, and we're really excited. It's a path to the cloud, which you never actually have to take if you don't want to. So we're really excited about the partnership.
I love that. It's not just about here are some APIs, go work with them. Your engineers are actually working closely together to make sure everything is seamless. Yep. What can we look forward to in the future?
Well, the big thing is the solution availability, which is scheduled for later this year. And we took a big milestone on that with the CCP announcement this morning, and that's available in April. So customers are already starting to look at what kinds of things they need to put in place to take advantage of this solution. And then really, following the progress of some of the open source technologies like Kubernetes and Istio, which will be part of the solution, I think is something that people can do as well.
Fantastic. Bob, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just say it's a really cool partnership where we get to keep doing what we do on open source and work with a great partner like Cisco who handles support for the customer. The customer gets to keep a lot of things the same. So customers really tend to like it because it's safe and reliable, and I think, like Kip said, it's something we're working on really hard together. Can't wait for it to come out this year.
All right, thank you so much, guys. There it is. It's hybrid cloud, it's multi-cloud, it's openness, the embracement of containers and such. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing more about the Google-Cisco partnership.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren, and our thanks to Google as well. Great setup in that video as we move into this entire segment about discussing cloud strategies, how to take the best advantage of cloud, and how you do it with Cisco in partnership, because we are very proud of our ability to help organizations get where they need to be and really embrace the multi-cloud future. So to continue on that line, I'm going to turn my head slightly to the left. My buddy Rob Boyd has joined me here in the studio.
Look who showed up!
I missed you. We never get a chance to talk with each other anymore.
No,
you don't call, you don't write, you don't bring snacks, I don't know.
I see you on camera, pre-recorded live, I can't tell the difference, but you're always somewhere out there. No, we're having fun, but there's a lot to cover here.
There's so much to cover, and you've been running around like mad. You've been with the remote crew out, tackling a number of different areas. Yeah. We're actually, in just a moment, we're going to throw to a video that you were able to record yesterday about the cloud strategy. But before we get to that, just tell me a little bit about what you've seen here on the show floor in terms of the cloud conversation, beginning with the kickoff yesterday at the keynote, and what you're thinking about it right now.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's a mind shift that maybe it's only me, but I think I'm going to say it's the industry, so I feel like I'm part of that crowd. But it was me coming around to the fact, let's say, that cloud is not an either-or decision that you go, hey, I'm all about private cloud, doing my own data center thing, or I'm all public cloud. It's not bifurcated like that. The reality is, and this is what Cisco has doubled down on, you're seeing examples of this across every architecture as part of our multi-cloud strategy, but it's the fact that I need private cloud for certain things, certain applications, and I'm seeing benefits of public cloud, but I may need Google for this, I may need Azure for this with Microsoft, I may need AWS. And so we're operating as kind of a Switzerland, if you will, and that's kind of, we're not saying we force you to go do either or things. The fact is that everything is always a migration, and people dip their toe in the water, they use a little bit of cloud. At the same time, they need the same instrumentation across the board to say, well, I can't measure things differently depending on who I'm working with. I need my data, is it operating the way I expect? And can I do that at a glance and not have to calculate to determine what happened last week?
So we have the benefit of staying agnostic, but how much of this is application-based? As the application comes online and creates demand, does that determine the use of the cloud to make best use of the application?
It does absolutely, because applications natively, the way they've been built, are very monolithic. They're not designed for the level of flexibility and agility that we're now coming to expect, and that is coming out of this notion of using the cloud. Because the idea of the cloud is you're not now geographically dependent. You can use geography to your advantage, be it to put data closer to the users, to do things in a more cost-effective manner, to scale on demand, whatever it may be, whatever your reason is. Now we're finding that applications may benefit from being built differently, and that's part of our Google relationship. So Google has operated in this 100% cloud mentality from the get-go. They built Kubernetes, which allowed, and have been living in this container environment. They open sourced Kubernetes as an orchestration platform to say containers are great in and of themselves. They are literally cloud native, but they still need more things from the perspective of how do we actually work with them. But then they still need more infrastructure, and this is where Cisco comes in our partnership with Google, what we're doing with the container platform, what we're doing with Hyperflex, and what that's been announced. All that starts to come together to make it very easy to build an application, as you say, and use it anywhere you need.
This is so exciting, and I think that's actually a perfect lead into the video that you recorded yesterday, which is specifically dedicated to the Cisco cloud strategy. That's what you were touching on right now. Let's hear a little bit more about it. Let's roll that VT.
All right, welcome to Cisco TV Studios. My name is Rob Boyd, and it is my pleasure to be joined by Fabio and Gordon. You guys are all about cloud. Cloud is such a central theme to everything we're talking about here, probably more so, and that's not a new theme for us, but probably more so, we've got more to brag about, more things. Our strategy, I think, has never been more clear, but I think it's important we all understand how to speak to it. What's important, if I'm a customer, what do I take away from it? If I'm a partner, how do I work with you on it? And if I'm a customer, how do I consume it? So Fabio, I'm going to start with you, if you could set the stage. We are speaking more than just cloud, we speak specifically to a reality of multi-cloud.
Yeah.
Can you explain what we mean by multi-cloud and how that applies?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about, and Rob, first of all, thank you for having us, right?
No, it's a pleasure.
First thing first, where is this coming from? It comes from the need of the business to digitize everything they do, right? Any process in any line of business, in any unit of the companies. What does this matter in the end? And how does it translate into reality? Is new applications and more applications faster and faster, okay? Yeah. To beat your competitor out there in the marketplace. That's fundamentally what it is. Now, more application faster means getting access to innovation wherever it comes from, any provider, any cloud. And that's why companies end up having a multi-cloud strategy, because no one cloud has it all.
Right.
And so what you see right now is that 94% of the companies that are fundamentally embracing cloud as a key platform to accomplish their digital transformation are using multiple clouds. And that translates into a lot of developers fundamentally in this line of business that are getting access to it. And of course, IT ops that find themselves into facing a rising complexity.
Gotcha. So, Gordon, I'm curious from your perspective, you represent kind of the European voice, is that correct? And so, with how he is defining this, does that translate to what you're seeing with customers in the European market?
Absolutely. I mean, what we see with customers over the last 5 years has seen phenomenal growth in terms of the cloud adoption. But at the same time as that phenomenal growth, we've also run into this complexity problem, right? We lack control, we lack visibility, it's very fragmented as customers build up this desire to have applications wherever they may sit. And fundamentally then we're talking to our customers about how they bring an element of control, consistency and structure to that. And we're looking at it in really 4 key areas. We're looking at it in the network. How do we extend the capabilities of the present day networks out to the cloud? How do we make sure it's secure? So how do we extend our security capabilities out to the cloud, wherever that cloud may be? And now we're also starting to look at how we get better visibility of what's going on. And then we're also looking at how we manage it and orchestrate it better than we've ever done before. So we're really focused on speaking to customers about building up these 4 pillars to drive consistency in terms of how you knock away the complexity, get the agility, but at the same time get levels of control that they haven't had before. So really excited time for us just now. How are we doing it? We're doing it because of software. We're embedding software into everything we do in a way that we've never done before, which is giving us this flexibility.
Well, let's get more specific on that, because I think one of the things that struck me is when we talk to customers, we find out that a technical leadership at our customers, as we got past the hype of clouds that's been going on for quite some time, we realized that it's not about simply putting it on the cloud and forgetting about it. There's still the same things have to happen, the same care about still exist. As Gordon mentioned, what are tools are we doing to address simplification? How are we've made a lot of acquisitions, we've had a lot of internal development. Are we bringing these things together to simplify and give CIOs, for instance, more of what they need?
Absolutely. If you think about it, Cisco has quite a lot of business units, and fundamentally in the last 18, 24 months, every single Cisco business unit has seen the same multi-cloud world happening, and so through organic and inorganic acquisitions, kind of investments, we've been pulling together an unbelievable amount of assets and intelligence across the 4 pillars that Gordon was talking about. Now, this is fundamentally our product pillar, if you want. Now, how do you make that more easy to consume and palatable for customers? There are 2 additional legs. The first one is you take these 4 pillars, networking, security management, and analytics, and you build easier to consume proposition. This is what we came up fundamentally in October with the Cisco multi-cloud portfolio, which is pretty simply articulated across these 4 dimensions: connect, protect, consume, and advisory. As simple as that. And that's the second pillar. The third pillar is you take all of this and you embed it into solutions that we build together with the cloud providers, such as what we announced with Cisco and Google at the end of October with our open hybrid cloud, which fundamentally gives customers the confidence that both the public cloud provider and Cisco can actually build this consistent environment between the 2 sides.
How important is the teaming in Europe? We talk about working with Google, we've been working with AWS, working with Microsoft, but how important is that to how we execute from your perspective?
Massively, because the big word here is consistency. We need to be able to offer customers the flexibility to choose any cloud, any application, any infrastructure, but we need to be able to deliver it in a consistent way. Critical in EMEA for that consistency is our ability to be more transparent with what's going on, and that allows us to deliver better governance, better audit capability in EMEA. And you can imagine in EMEA, those things are right at the center of the care-abouts for the CIO today. So, we're really delivering a great platform opportunity here for our customers to get that level of consistency, which will give them better governance and better control.
Well, not to get too technical on this, but just wanted to say, one of the most interesting things that, among the multiple things that came out, we announced HyperFlex 3 recently, which is playing a big part in helping customers execute on these things. We of course have the Google partnership and Kubernetes and such that we've been working on, because customers seem to be adopting that. But specifically, I think it was a stretch clustering, and the ability to do that is really an EMEA want and a care about that said there was a lot of companies. We used to think about HyperFlex or hyperconvergence as being something only certain smaller customers wanted, and we were afraid, because we came out conservative for a change, which I'm proud of us for, saying, don't put the most critical stuff on this, but now we came out where customers are telling us it can handle critical workloads, and so now we're rolling out features that say the biggest operations with multiple private data centers, if you will, with stretch clusters can actually take advantage of. And then now we're building applications, working with Google such that being native to cloud is native to how we do business, and I really like how we're moving in that.
Yep.
I know we got more coming this week. I'm sorry, I'm practicing as I rattle off the stuff I'm excited about.
No,
but
you were doing great.
That's
why
you.
we didn't tell you anything.
Yeah, because these are the guys that I have to make sure are happy with how I say it. But any final point, and then I'll come to you, but I'll start with you, Gordon. Sorry.
Yeah, so well, for me, I think it's all about the consistency and the control. Those 2 C's are very, very important for us, and if we put better consistency and control in place, it actually gives us better flexibility for our customers, and that solves the complexity, the 3rd C that we had earlier on. So consistency and control is solving the complexity challenges for our customers in the multi-cloud world.
It's hard to create tension in these conversations, so would you disagree with consistency and control?
Absolutely not. And the question is, what do other big market players think about this multi-cloud strategy? Well, let me tell you something. If you come to Barcelona, you're here, and you come visiting us in the cloud area, in the world of solution, you will find AWS, Google Cloud.
They're all here.
And Azure. And they're all here. They're all with us. We're working very, very closely with these guys because they're absolutely the protagonists of this era, of multi-cloud era. They're pushing the envelope of innovation for our customers, and they understand the value that Cisco can take to actually glue up this environment together. Fundamentally, lower the barrier to access the cloud and to confidently kind of develop in the cloud and develop in the cloud, but also deploy anywhere the customer wants, and removing all these barriers.
So glad you brought them in, because I think each one It's not as if customers pick one and say, this is who I'm partnering with. Each one brings a different level of expertise in a slightly different area because they're carving out their own pieces of what we kind of loosely call public cloud, but it's so much more than that, whether it be machine learning or some of the ways in which you can deploy differently. Each person is an expert in their own right, and the way we connect them and make it simple so that we can get the instrumentation consistent across no matter who you go with, I love that role we're playing. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. Guys, if you have a chance, if you're on the show floor, be sure and stop by the cloud booth. As he said, there's a lot of good people to meet there, and you can ask a lot of hard questions because all the players are there. So we get the ability to answer all that for you, and that's the way it should be. So thanks for joining us. Thank you guys. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, welcome back into the studio. Rob, fantastic interview. What a great overview of the strategy. What really stood out to you if you think back on that?
Well, it's really, and I kind of teased into this at the beginning, and I haven't changed from this, it's the fact that, so one, you're going to speak some level of cloud speak, if you will, at almost everything in here. And we're in a unique position from a Cisco perspective to say that we partner with everybody that we need to partner with, but our advantage is the fact that we're really about the data and helping you get the data to where it needs to be and giving you one way in which you can access all of this to run your business versus being run by your platforms.
Really interesting, yeah, and what it does is it empowers people to take advantage of the application. I want to go, we've got another video, Lauren Malhoit is going to give us a demo on Cloud Container, which is an aspect of what you talked about in that last piece. Let's go ahead right to Lauren at this point.
Hi everyone, I'm here at the Cisco Container Platform booth with Pradnesh, the PM for Cisco CP. Pradnesh, what is Cisco Container Platform?
Cisco Container Platform is a container management platform based on 100% upstream open source components. It has things like Kubernetes, Docker. It's 100% hybrid cloud optimized, and it addresses important customer challenges with integrations like networking, security, storage, and it has a very flexible deployment model.
Yeah, making it easy for the customer, which I'm sure is appreciated.
Yes.
Can we see it?
Of course, we have a demo running right here. So what I'm going to show in this demo is 3 use cases.
Perfect.
So here it goes. So the first and foremost thing, now we are deploying the platform. The deployment of the platform is very easy. I deployed it in 20 minutes and I'm a PM. So anybody can do it. It's a very lightweight platform which runs on 3 VMs. So right now we are deploying what we call as OVA into a vCenter.
I'm sure, yeah, admins have done that for a long time now, so pretty easy.
Yes. And once it's deployed, this is the UI you will see with Cisco Container Platform. You log in, and then the next step is you try to deploy the Kubernetes cluster so that you can deploy containerized applications on top of that.
So we can orchestrate the containers and all of that good stuff.
Yes, exactly. The beauty of Kubernetes with Docker Engine, Nginx, there are a lot of open source components there, even for logging monitoring. We have Prometheus, EFK, all that good stuff. So here, you log into the tool, you see first dashboard where we show you different clusters, and then there is a simple button, you click Create Cluster, that opens up a wizard. Few steps, you specify the inputs, and then your cluster is up and running. So some of the worker master details. This is a Kubernetes cluster, you know, master-slave concepts in Kubernetes cluster. You specify the details. In the end, we show the summary, do the pre-checks, and then once you hit that finish button, it starts deploying that Kubernetes cluster by talking with vCenter.
So easy, just follow the wizard, no need to know the kubectl commands and all of that.
Yes. And as you can see, once the cluster is deployed, we show you the state of cluster. You see that small green checkbox there that shows you that cluster is healthy. In worst possible case, if there are problems with the cluster, you'll see that the cluster is in problem. You'll see orange or red, and that's how you'll know you need to troubleshoot that specific cluster. These are a few actions you can also perform with the cluster, where you can change the size of the cluster. Initially, say you created a cluster with 15 nodes, and your workloads grew, and now you want a 20-node cluster. Click a button, change the size of the cluster from 15 nodes to 20, and we scale the cluster.
And that's what containers are all about, really, is being able to scale in, scale out.
Exactly. And now what we are doing in the demo is just showing you the state of cluster with kubectl commands. Hey, we deployed it here, right here. It's running healthy. And then we are applying the sock shop application, which is basically a sock store that runs on the web. So once the application is deployed, you'll see it in a browser running. And you see it, we renamed it to Cisco Socks, so nice pair of socks. There is a load balancing there. This is multi-services based cloud native application.
Socks are very popular right now, so we need to be able to scale out.
Yeah, it's cold out here. You need socks. And then the third use case where we will be showing the data persistency. And for that, we are using kind of a tweet-based application where you log in and send your tweets, and that application will store your tweets. So this is just a YAML file, cloud-native containerized applications are deployed in the YAML files. So we are just showing here there is a persistent volume we are creating with the application, and that will basically make sure that your data is stored even when application is killed, is upgraded or downgraded.
So that constant question of containers and persistent storage, how we manage that?
Exactly. So just kubectl get pods, see our application is up. This is first version of the application that's being deployed. And you can see this is pretty simple application with the Twitter timeline here. You log into the application, standard things, username, password. You log into the application. And then you start typing whatever tweets you want to send. And those tweets get saved as data in the application. So just for an example, we saved a couple of tweets on the timeline. And now what we will do, we will upgrade the application to a newer version. And ideally, the data needs to persist. And that's the big challenge our customers are facing right now. That it's very hard to get data to persist between different versions of application. All right, so kubectl apply, that basically deploys the next version of your application. We are just making sure with get pods, the application is up. You go to the same URL again, the new version of the application is deployed. And as you can see, the data is still there even when application is upgraded. That's basically
all the
very
tweets
small
are
example
saved
of the data persistency. Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Pradnesh. I'm so happy to see Cisco embracing containers. I think this is the way of the future. I think a lot of people think that. So thank you again, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. As always, really fantastic job. Great interview there, embracing containers. So Rob, how does that tie into what your conversations were looking like yesterday?
Well, so Lauren and I were doing some pre-research on containers and kind of understanding, so containers are considered an open source thing. They're not, anybody can take advantage of containers, they're light, they're easy to deploy, anybody can play with them, which is one reason why they're such a boon, it's been such a benefit to software developers, because it becomes very easy, it's a completely constrained environment that's not as heavy, they're lightweight, as we mentioned earlier, they are native to cloud. And then you get the orchestration platform, which is also open source. You have Docker containers which have become the most prominent, dominant form of a container, and then the most dominant container orchestration platform has become Kubernetes. Now these are both open source, so the first question I had when talking to this team was like, we're coming out with this container platform on Hyperflex. I can't remember exactly how we word that, so pardon me for it, but the thing is I understand Hyperflex value. What are we doing different with containers? Why does someone get it from us if they can get it for free from somewhere else? And the difference becomes that Kubernetes, bless them, it's not that simple to use, and when it comes to scaling and it comes to how do you tie in storage and all the other things that applications are truly going to need, there's a little bit more, and to simplify them, make them really useful for a massive amount of people and enterprise, this is what the platform brings on Hyperflex. It brings that same Hyperflex simplicity, makes OVA deployment simple, and now more people can take advantage of that magic of containers.
Really cool, and I'm so glad that you and Lauren were able to have those conversations yesterday. We're going to stop talking about cloud here in the studio, but we are going to continue with cloud in the Innovation Showcase. We are just seconds away, enabling a multi-cloud world. Liz Centoni and Kip Compton are going to talk about Cisco's cloud strategy, how Cisco and our partners are helping customers address complexities across the multi-cloud environment, really picking up where we left off here with those videos. Let's go ahead and go live down to the CMAX Theater at the end of World of Solutions for the next Innovation Showcase talk. We'll see you on the other side.
Hello and welcome to the CMAX Silent Theater. This is the home of Cisco Live's Innovation Showcases. Now, Innovation Showcases offers a look at the latest innovations from Cisco, not only giving the context, but also the inspiration that today's IT professionals need to create the world of tomorrow. Now, today we'll be exploring the world of multi-cloud. But before we hear from our speakers, Kip Compton and Liz Centoni, let's take a look at this great video.
It started out as a great idea. You got a cloud to handle this application, then a different cloud for that service, and another cloud for your data. But after a while, even though all of those clouds worked, they just didn't work together. So we wondered, what if, instead of adding more complexity, we provided the missing piece that would tie your clouds together so that your network works for your cloud, not against it. Security integrates with your cloud, not around it. And insights are available across all your clouds. Because when those things all work together, your clouds do, too.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're going to talk about multi-cloud. My name is Kip Compton. I run the Cloud Platform and Solutions Group. I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing with you our overall cloud strategy and a few updates on how we're addressing the market needs in this space. I'm going to have a chance to invite a guest from Google Cloud, so we can spend a little bit of time talking about Google Cloud strategy and how the partnership we announced last October for an open hybrid cloud solution fits into Cisco and Google's strategy. After that, Liz Santoni is going to take the stage and share with us the latest data center innovations, including the fantastic HyperFlex 3 that we announced last week. So thanks for joining us. You know, I'll start by just linking to Cisco's strategy at a corporate level, and I'm hoping that this is a slide that you've probably seen once or twice this week at Cisco Live. This is our 5 strategic priorities for the company. It's a slide that Chuck uses often to describe them. You know, I just note what we're talking about today with multi-cloud is literally front and center. You can see it right there in the center, embracing a multi-cloud world. And really the reason for that is quite simple, and it's based on data about our customers. If you look at this slide, I think the most significant number on here from a multi-cloud perspective is the number at the far right. 94% of companies that are using the cloud plan to use or are already using multiple clouds. This number is a few months old, and I'll tell you the previous number from a year before that was 84%. So this is trending up. I can also share with you anecdotally, we were discussing this with our senior sales leadership. Member of that team actually asked, where's the other 6%? Every customer I talk to is having a multi-cloud strategy. And the reasons for having a multi-cloud strategy are many, but we've seen a shift over the last year or so. It used to be that companies saw cloud as predominantly a way to save money. Cloud services were a commodity, kind of like oil. Whoever would sell you a barrel of oil the cheapest is who you'd buy it from. But over the last year, people have started to see cloud as something a little bit different. Sure, it's efficient, but it's also key to enabling transformation and digitizing their business and delivering compelling customer and employee experiences. It's really become much more strategic. So a lot of customers are looking at multi-cloud not as a procurement-led direction to maintain vendor leverage, but instead as a strategy so that they can access different types of innovation in different clouds. Many people talk about the machine learning capabilities at Google with TensorFlow, or the access to the Alexa platform through AWS as examples of why they really need to be in multiple clouds and believe that they'll be in multiple clouds for a long time. Now that said, multi-cloud is not simple. People thought that cloud was going to be this great simplification, and it hasn't been. It's interesting, in fact, several months ago I had lunch with a Fortune 50 CIO, and she shared with me that all of the hard and important parts of her job, from her perspective, were still there, even when they moved to the cloud. She gave examples. She said, you know, security, compliance, innovation, performance, great user experiences for customers and for employees were all things that she had to manage when it was on-prem, and she still had to manage in the cloud. It turned out that managing the air conditioner, monitoring the speed of the disk drives, and so forth wasn't the most important part of her job and wasn't the most difficult. And so she said it's really a re-architecture of IT. It's not necessarily simpler, it's different. Now what's interesting is when you then go to multiple clouds, you have a whole nother layer of complexity. There's these great different innovations in each of the clouds, but there are also differences that drive operational concerns and additional work. And so it's not a surprise to see that a lot of customers are actually relatively early in their cloud journey. And this is a study that we did with IDC. The data is a few months old. And we developed 5 categories to kind of capture enterprises and where they are in their sort of cloud maturity curve, if you will. Now I want to emphasize, this isn't a timeline. It's not that every enterprise moves through each of these phases in order. There are many different paths to the cloud based on the business, the regulatory, and other concerns. But one thing that this does show is that the majority of customers are relatively early in their cloud journey. In fact, if you look, over half the customers are in the left two categories, which are the least mature, labeled ad hoc and opportunistic here. These are customers, for example, in the ad hoc category, who really they're using cloud, but each department is signing up on their own, using credit cards. They may, not only do they not have a plan, they may not even know what's going on. So it's happening, but it's hard to say that it's really optimized to deliver a business outcome at acceptable levels of risks. You go all the way over to Optimize. These are companies that not only have visibility and governance, but have actually optimized their use of the cloud for their business. And you can see just about 1 in 10 customers feel that they're there. So there's a long way to go on this journey and great opportunities to address the multi-cloud complexity that our customers face. And as we've talked to customers about their multi-cloud journey, there are several capabilities that have come out as areas where they'd like some common frameworks and tools. They'd like to access the innovation that's happening in all of the public cloud providers, but they don't necessarily want networking to be completely different at each cloud provider. And in fact, they'd really like that networking to integrate with their existing on-prem networking in their enterprise. Likewise with security, it's not an advantage to have security working differently all over the place. This creates seams and cracks where people can get through. Analytics is another great example. If you think about application performance analytics in particular, as exemplified by AppD, customers really need a single framework that enables them to look at the performance of applications the same way, regardless of where those applications may be hosted, whether they're on-prem or in one of several cloud providers. It doesn't make any sense to report back to the business application performance using different metrics depending on where the application was hosted. And as you have applications that span environments, it's critical when you're trying to debug, understand the performance and debug issues with performance to have a tool that works across all of those. So that was actually one of the main impetuses behind our AppD acquisition at Cisco. Then last but not least is management. And this one's a little bit tricky because we don't want to take ourselves to a lowest common denominator. Obviously, since there are differences in the different clouds representing that innovation that everyone wants access to, there's going to be differences in management. But there's a lot of things that customers would like to have common. For example, cost accounting and cost prediction. One of the disadvantages of cloud is that cost can be somewhat unpredictable because it's based on your usage. So tools that enable customers to look across their entire cloud footprint and understand their likely progression of costs in the future are very valuable and are an example of a management capability. And it's interesting because what customers have told us is not only do they want these things to be common, but they think they may want to procure some of these things from people who are not their cloud providers. I think they're concerned that if they want something to work across multiple cloud providers, it may be politically and technically difficult to make one cloud provider's technology work in another cloud provider's. So a lot of customers are looking to companies like Cisco to solve these problems. And we're responding. We've really created sort of a three-pronged approach to how we're addressing this problem with our customers. First, and really the foundation of what we're doing, we have our cloud products. And I'll show you in a second, actually, we have a little bit of an embarrassment of riches in this area. Cisco's a big company with a lot of products, and a growing number of them apply to solving our customers' cloud problems. Second thing we have is our multi-cloud portfolio. This is a more limited, focused set of products that are specifically set up to help address multi-cloud problems. We've simplified the portfolio and developed specific use cases and design guides to make those products easier for our partners and customers to adopt and consume. And I'll share some information on that with you as well. Then last but not least, our integrated solutions with cloud providers. This multi-cloud world, it's critical that we have those. And we'll talk a little bit about Google today in that category. So here are our cloud products. This is a long list, but it's not even complete. I'll do a few call outs, but actually the length of this list is sort of a problem from a complexity perspective. It's really hard to wrap your head around this in many cases and figure out where do you go to solve different problems. But I will do a couple of call outs. HyperFlex in our data center portfolio is a tremendous growth story for us and something that we're seeing take up a lot of traction due to the simplicity of what it offers. People are really able to take that, some people use the term cloud in a box, and deploy on-prem with more simplicity. Cloud Center is foundational to how we orchestrate the data center and cloud workloads. And it's fair to say that data center sort of anchors our cloud portfolio. But sometimes in the past we've stopped there. And what we've learned from our customers is that security and networking And in fact, even cloud applications are a critical part of their cloud journey. Sometimes things aren't moving as a workload into IaaS, but are simply moving to SaaS, and that's part of the transition as well. Then last but not least, we have a lot of interest in our cloud professional services, particularly in the advisory side. As you saw earlier, a lot of people are relatively early in their transition and are looking for help in how they plot that journey. Customers have told me that they like working with Cisco because they see us as having the breadth from our work with cloud providers, as well as our on-prem data center stuff, but also less biased because we don't have our own cloud. We're not trying to advise customers to move their workloads to our cloud. We're in a position to, with our partners, guide them to use all of the different clouds that may help their business. So that's a very important part of our portfolio and one that's growing. I mentioned a multi-cloud portfolio earlier. As you can see, this is very much simplified. And we really organize this around 4 key jobs that the customer needs to do, if you will. First of all is cloud advisory, which I just described. And a lot of times customers' journeys actually start with that. But then we've got Cloud Connect, which is all about how you connect from your on-prem to the cloud. We have Cloud Protect, which is about how you secure workloads and users in the cloud. Then last but not least, Cloud Consume, which is about how you manage cloud consumption. Things like that cost accounting that I mentioned and AppD fall into that category. You know, we don't have time today to go through all of this, but there's a lot of material and a lot of capabilities on the floor here in the world of solutions. In fact, a lot of our cloud activities are now organized around these pillars to make it a little bit easier for you to navigate. So I'd encourage you to check this out in the education zone today or tomorrow. So in the category of cloud partnerships, we had an announcement earlier this week of a new support offer with Microsoft Azure. This is an interesting offer. As we were working with Azure, we learned that a lot of our mutual customers have connectivity issues from time to time between their on-prem data center and Microsoft Azure. And in fact, there's been a number of instances where those have been significant service impacting events. As we dug into that, we discovered that there wasn't really a place where you could see the end-to-end connection from a support perspective. You know, Cisco TAC is incredible in their ability to diagnose and fix networking problems, but they don't really have access and insight into the express route capability at Azure or the Azure network. At the same time, Azure is quite good at debugging their environment, but could not see the on-prem at all. So we teamed up with Microsoft and announced a new Cisco offer. It's part of our solution support portfolio, so it extends that capability for customers. And by the way, it's available to buy now, and the actual support service will be starting in March. And customers can actually buy a support offer against their connection to Azure and have a quick debug and single source of accountability for those problems. It's a basic step, but I think it's something that will help our customers in their cloud journey. Now, of course, much higher profile is our partnership that we announced last October with Google Cloud. And we'll be talking about this a little bit later with Bob Krentler from Google. But we're really excited about this because it was really, we believe, the industry's first open hybrid cloud solution. And frankly, the feedback that we got when we made the announcement was tremendous. It really exceeded our expectations. And you know, you can find a lot of coverage of this online. It's just tremendous excitement about this solution. And we're progressing with the solution. We're entering the early access phase, as we said we would in this time frame, and we'll be shipping the solution later this year. Now I want to talk a little bit about containers, because they're not only a cornerstone of the solution we have with Google, but really the new emerging trend in the way people are thinking about workloads in the cloud and in the data center. And there are a few reasons why. One is they're much lighter weight. They start much faster, they use less memory. This is not just an efficiency thing, it actually changes the way people can write code. This is really foundational for microservices. They also offer a consistent development environment and an ability to consistently package your applications into standardized containers that can run anywhere. This is something that we never fully achieved in the virtual machine world. So of course, there are some challenges with this as well. And in a multi-cloud world, there are a lot of different open source solutions out there. And those open source solutions are not necessarily easy for enterprise IT shops to consume. There are questions about how should containers work in a hybrid environment. It's great if you have containers running in each place, but how do you start to connect that securely and enable applications to actually span those environments? There's some complexity. Containers are lighter weight, so of course developers are going to create many more of them. And how you manage that sprawl is something that's important. Then last, and certainly not least from our perspective, are problems around networking, security, and storage that are really just beginning to be solved with containers. These are problems that were solved some time back with virtual machines, but we need different approaches for containers. So actually this morning we announced a new product called the Cisco Container Platform. And this is a Cisco product that enables enterprises to deploy Kubernetes as a container orchestration system. It's really something that extends our existing portfolio of offers in this space. So we think in a multi-cloud world, many customers will have multiple stacks, and this is another choice for them. It uses native Kubernetes, 100% upstream. We've heard loud and clear from developers that they really want to work with the latest open source technology. They don't want something that's forked or different. And we're optimizing this for the hybrid cloud. In fact, we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but our engineering team has been working closely with the Google Kubernetes engineering team to optimize this and to make it consistent with Google's Google Kubernetes engine in the Google Cloud, enabling seamless hybrid workload migration. Last but not least is the integration that we've done with the rest of our portfolio. Feedback we get from customers is it's great and important to have a hardened Kubernetes and Docker container engine, but to make that really enterprise production grade, it's got to integrate with things like ACI. It's got to be as easy as things like Hyperflex, and it's got to be manageable. So we've integrated this with other parts of our Cisco portfolio to make it part of something that we think at the solution level is much more mature. So you can find out more about this. It's going to be available in April of 2018. We announced it just this morning. There's some Whisper Suite sessions. There's also some sessions scheduled today and tomorrow that you can check out. And of course, there's information online. So with that, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome Bob Krentler to the stage. Bob is head of Alliance Technology Strategy at Google, and has been a great partner for us on the Google Cloud partnership. Yes. So Bob, before we dive into the partnership, I was wondering maybe you could share some insights with us about Google Cloud strategy and where you guys are going.
Sure, first of all, I got Kip's new Cisco stocks that he gave me earlier, and you can get these if you come over to our demo area, so take a look. So about Google Cloud strategy in general, so a couple things. So Google's been investing in cloud for a very long time. So when you use Google Cloud, you use the same infrastructure that YouTube uses and Google uses and all of our services use all around the world. And so for us, we're investing heavily in cloud. We're certainly in it to win it. We hired Diane Green. She was actually on the board of directors of Alphabet, and now she's running the CEO of Google Cloud. And one of the things we've done over the last 3 years is invest $30 billion in fiber all around the world, including data centers, and we just opened a new data center in Frankfurt. We were laying cables across the oceans and all these things. So these are key strategic advantages for Google. The other things that we're doing, we're investing heavily in open source, and we always will. Just the list of our open source services that have become products are Kubernetes, TensorFlow for ML and AI, and the list goes on and on and on. We hire people from the open source community. We're growing like crazy. Cloud is a key strategic bet for all of Google and all of Alphabet. So we're hiring like crazy all around the world, and we're going to continue to grow by being the most open cloud and to leverage all of the infrastructure investments we've already made.
No, it's been great to see the progress. You guys are growing faster than a lot of your competitors, which is fantastic to see.
Yep.
Maybe why don't we talk a little bit about our joint solution? And I think it's something that really brings together the best of both of our companies. From the Cisco side, obviously networking and security, two of our biggest businesses and things that are cited as the two biggest pain points here, but also private cloud infrastructure, things like Hyperflex, multi-cloud management with things like Cloud Center, and then the support capabilities that really make something feasible for an enterprise. There's a lot that Google brings to the table as well.
Right, so as Kip mentioned, it's all about containerization, but the way that we continue to build our portfolio is with new services. So for example, we just released a new product called AutoML. Our vision is how we're going to democratize AI and ML, so we essentially made an easy mode for you to get started and learn that. So we're going to keep investing in those things, but also on the security front, this is really the most important thing we have at Google, is our ability to deliver secure services and earn the trust of the customer. So for example, our security research team recently discovered the Spectre bug, and we worked with the hardware providers to get a fix out. So we're always looking out for you in security. I think the future is definitely going to be in containers and microservices. And I think the present today, though, is that most of that stuff still runs on-prem. So for us, we have to work with people like Cisco, who are great partners. In fact, Cisco was our first ever enterprise partner, the Google Search Appliance, a long time ago. And so we're going to continue to put together the best of both worlds. And you mentioned support, right? So Cisco will actually support this solution. So customers really don't have to change. I could get to keep, my network gets to stay segmented, have the same security that I have today, and you get to work with us on containers, which we've been doing for 15 years.
No, I think it's one of the reasons we've gotten so much good feedback is the complementarity between Cisco and Google.
Yep.
We have a few minutes. Why don't we talk a little bit about the architecture? One of the foundational elements of the architecture is clearly Kubernetes. I know Google, you've been very close to that. Do you have it seems like it's sort of essentially one at this point. Wondering what your all's perspective is on that.
Yeah, so it's a testament to Google's commitment to open source. So if you're not familiar with what Kubernetes is, please learn, but essentially it's a way to orchestrate containers. And containers are more efficient, but when you have a lot of them, like we do, it started out at Google, we had to create Kubernetes in order to manage our own infrastructure. And we had, of course, a very googly name for it called Borg. And so we had to come up with some way to bring Borg to the world. And so what we've done is, this is the third generation of Kubernetes that you're getting from Cisco. We contributed to the upstream community. We're heavily invested in it as well. And I think the reason it's one is that developers love it. It's safe. It's relatively easy to use, especially in a managed service like we have. And I think you've seen the other cloud providers now recently start to adopt Kubernetes, when in the past they weren't. Even Docker is going to adopt Kubernetes. So I think it's one because it grew really fast and there's a lot of credibility behind it.
So one thing people ask me a lot is, how's it going? They know that we're doing a lot of work. We'll have the solution in the market later this year. But from your perspective, how's the partnership evolving?
I think it's going exactly how we hoped it had gone, which is amazing. I think the partnership between Google and Cisco, we have the same multi-cloud vision of the world. I mean, it's already here. But the thing is customers need to be able to take advantage of this well-lit path to the cloud, whether or not they actually ever take that path to the cloud. And so what we want to do is bring the cloud technologies that we think are the most open and don't make you pick a cloud provider for the rest of your life. And we think that we can win in that space. And so I think for us, in the meetings we've had here with customers are really thrilling. So we couldn't be more pleased.
No, the feedback from customers is outstanding. And as we've gone through the EAP program, it's been great to see that. And I'll also add, for me, a leading indicator is often how the engineers feel.
Oh, yeah.
And watching the engineers, after they've been working together on something between the teams, they're excited, they're moving fast, and so I think that's a fantastic predictor of where this can go, and I really think that this solution is really just the start of how we can work together.
Yeah, I agree. We're co-engineering this together. Our engineers just love working on it. Our offices are only 5 miles apart. Of course, I was running into you on trips.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, did you want to talk about Istio at all, or are we out of time?
Yeah, we're a little bit out of time, but maybe we'll just take a moment. I mean, Istio is the service mesh, which is sort of the third leg of the stool here.
Yeah, so Istio, think of it as networking for containers and services, and we actually got a demo over in the booth that connects a flower shop to an on-prem database working with a Google service in the cloud. So Istio kind of holds it all together.
Yep.
Coming soon.
Sort of the glue that makes it hybrid.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is fantastic.
Lovely.
Thank you for joining us. And with that, I'd like to welcome Liz Santoni up to the stage. Liz leads our computing system products group. That's Cisco speak for all of our data center compute products like UCS and HyperFlex and more. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Kip. So I would say, hands down, the favorite part of my job is talking to customers, because I get to understand, where you're coming from, the challenges that you face, where you want to take your business to, and your personal careers as well. As we all know, we've never been in an environment where we get an increase in OpEx year over year. It's usually the other way around. And then there's a question of technology ebbs and flows as well. So I'd say in an average month, I get to talk to a lot of customers. I'm privileged enough to be able to be in that position to do that. And these are customers that span the globe, multiple verticals. And when you think about it, no matter the size of customer, from a startup all the way to a multi-billion-dollar customer, they may all say the same thing in different ways, but there's three things that customers talk to me on a regular basis. The first one is around simplify. So it's about simplify Everything from my buying, to my installing, to my provisioning, to securing, to scaling, to refreshing. It's about, please Cisco, simplify it for me. The second one is on cloud. Every single customer I talk to says, I'm definitely going to go cloud. In fact, I'm definitely going to leverage multiple clouds, but I don't know quite if I'm doing it right. You know, am I using the right cloud? Is it going to cost me a lot more than where I am? How about security? Would I get locked in? And I know when I actually provide that cloud path to my developers, they actually are pretty delighted, but in most of the time, I probably don't know what cloud they're using. So please, Cisco, help me on the cloud journey. And the last one is around applications. You know, when you think about it, apps are the face of every modern environment. A couple of days ago, we were at the Hyperflex party and a bunch of us actually went down and were looking for transportation. So what do? We take out our phones and launch the Uber app. Well, it doesn't work. Then we try Lyft. That doesn't work either. So there's a bunch of us standing on the sidewalk downloading My Taxi application. You know, you get what I mean. So what I'm going to do in the next 20 minutes is talk to these three things. How have we simplified our solutions? What can we help in terms of enabling you on your cloud journey? And examples on how you can delight your developers. And I also get the privilege of bringing on stage John Mitchell, who is a chief architect at SAP Ariba. John, probably in a little bit in terms of, I love the enthusiasm that John has, but we'll talk to John about his, about SAP's Ariba's cloud transformation journey as well. So as you can see, this is not something that we've rehearsed for some time, but it's something that, you know, it's more where we've talked about with SAP especially, and with other customers. So we're gonna touch on that as well as kind of a use case as well. So let's dig in. The first one I want to double click on is simplify. We all talk about simplify, especially when you talk to engineers. The hardest thing to do sometimes is to create simple solutions. And when I think about simplification, or even, you know, there's two aspects of simplifications. One is around operational consistency. How do I take my infrastructure across my data center and multiple clouds and have a common and consistent approach? Whether it's from installing to provisioning to actually refreshing the whole thing and troubleshooting as well. And the second part is, how do I make sure that the infrastructure that I'm deploying across these multiple locations has the architectural flexibility that no matter what application I deploy, at no matter scale that I deploy it at, whether that application is in a VM or in a container, or it is in bare metal, and whether it's my traditional applications or my cloud native applications as well. So let's touch on these one at a time. So last year, we introduced Intersight, and I would say is we turned the server industry on its head. It disrupted, or it's an absolutely new way of managing your systems. Think about it as managing your on-prem infrastructure from the cloud. It's a single platform where we actually enable telemetry on all the devices, so we're collecting millions of data points 24/7. And it alerts you to outages that are about to happen. With the data that we collect, we're also providing customers with a very predictive and proactive way in terms of managing the infrastructure. So it alerts you to the health of the system. It lets you know when there's mismatches in the OS and firmware versions as well. And in fact, you can take what you learn from one site and apply it to other sites. So think about it in the aspects of very predictive and proactive as well. So about probably less than 6 months ago, we launched our tech preview. We have about 52,000 customer endpoints that are actually connected to the platform. No one else in the industry comes even close to it. This is where you bring the power of unified computing to the fullest. So if you haven't already seen it, there's a demo right there in the data center and cloud session. I would highly encourage you to do that. And a free trial as well in terms of, in fact, the team tells me we actually took our first 2 orders on Intersight that was just launched or FCS about a couple of weeks ago. So great to see Would love to see you all at our booth after this session too. Now, when I talk to customers most often about Intersight, the question that I get most often is, so does it work across public clouds as well? And my answer is no. Because we built this primarily for infrastructure automation for on-prem and private cloud. And so when you want to think about going across multiple clouds, I know Kip touched on that as well, is where we leverage Cloud Center. And Cloud Center is what you need in terms of your cloud management and orchestration. Because what we don't want to do is dictate a particular cloud to you as well. So this integrated solution provides you the infrastructure automation as well as the cloud management and orchestration across your on-prem, private, public, and your multi-cloud domain. When it comes to hardware, HyperFlex. It's the #1 in performance in the industry and the fastest install time as well. And this didn't quite happen by accident. It's a file system that was actually developed specifically for the hyperconverged space. In fact, we have 2,400 customers that have deployed not just VDI, but SQL as well as Oracle, and a number of ERP applications. The question that I get most often from customers is, what app should I deploy? And I'd say, you can deploy any app on this. So if you haven't seen the test results in terms of where we actually show up way better than our competition on performance, definitely come look for any of us and we'd be happy to give you a copy on that one. And last week we actually announced HyperFlex 3.0, and I want to touch on a few things in terms of what it brings in. We have support for Hyper-V. It's now a platform that supports containers, as Kip talked about. We have Cisco Container Platform that's actually supported on HyperFlex. So you now have an enterprise-grade platform where you can actually develop your cloud-native applications as well. And we have support for stretch clusters, which I know is very popular here, especially for HA and DR as well. And in addition to that, we've taken the expertise that we've had in CVDs over multiple years, and we're bringing that to hyperconverged. So you now have a platform that you know is ready for SAP, for SQL, for Oracle, and Exchange as well. So I want to segue into cloud, and I know Kip covered quite a few things on our multi-cloud solutions. But what we have is, in EMEA especially, we have a number of customers who are big users of Microsoft applications and Azure. And we've seen a massive pipeline for our Azure Stack solutions, and it's really about enabling our customers to bring Azure services on-prem. Now you'll see a solution that's similar looking from others as well. Where we stand out is that we own all the components in that infrastructure and are able to give you the highest performance, and it's the same operational model in terms of where you can manage the rest of your UCS solutions as well. And I know Kip and Bob touched on this as well, but what I wanted to talk about as part of these solutions are, these are not just, the engagement that we've done with these major cloud providers, they're not just on PowerPoint or in a press release. These are actually co-engineered solutions with engineering teams from Cisco, Google, and Microsoft as well. Here, what I wanted to point out is that the core of at the heart of the private cloud infrastructure is HyperFlex with Cisco Container Platform on top of that, and that should be available in the first half of this calendar year, actually. So let me touch on applications. When you think about it, is every single data center and cloud was built to do one thing, run applications. But when you look at how applications are being developed, they've gone from being more monolithic and cloud and more data center centric to be more developed in microservices and more distributed in nature as well. You have applications that are custom developed, actually they're updated by the minute, and some of them have a shelf life of just a few weeks. Developers are having an increased influence in terms of the technology decisions that IT needs to make. And so a big part of what we're looking at, how do we enable you to delight your developers? And one of the examples, and Kip touched on this as well, is where we've integrated the Cisco Container Platform on HyperFlex. Now, on HyperFlex, you can run any Kubernetes stack, including your own homegrown Kubernetes stack as well, but the team has curated a set of capabilities and services as part of the Cisco Container Platform, so you can offer that container as a service. It's developer ready and developer friendly as well. So now let me segue in, and John, please. So John, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And so as I was talking to you, I found out something a little bit about you in terms of where you said, hey, I usually when I think about something, I'm not very much a digital person, but you actually write things down.
Yes.
And you're a big fountain pen aficionado.
Yes.
And you actually kind of curate or put together your own inks as well.
Correct. Yes. It's you know, there's the spectrum, and changing your mindset is such a huge thing. To be open in different parts of your brain and how you interact with things changes your experience and your viewpoint on the world.
So John, you've brought that same thing into transforming what SAP Ariba has gone through. So, you know, I talked about a few things, right? Simplify, the cloud experience. So talk to us about a little bit about, you know, how have you taken SAP through its kind of journey through the simplification part of it? Because as we talk about it, it's sometimes harder to do than make things complex.
Yes, actually, when you have so much legacy that Ariba has in particular, like your diagram just showed, you have these, you know, decades worth of legacy, and how do you bring that into the new world is people get too wrapped up into techniques and here's this latest trick versus, hey, what's the real problem we're trying to solve? And that always comes down to making people more effective, right? So the simplification is, hey, it's not, oh, I'm going to take your job away, which is kind of the classic knee-jerk reaction. It's, oh, I'm going to give you new tools to enable you to do the interesting things and the actually valuable things.
So John, as part of that, when you said, you know, how do you take the fear out of it? Talk to us a little bit about your multi-cloud journey.
Yes. Yeah, as both you and Kip were talking about, there's different benefits to everything. Just like when you build a team, each person is bringing different values and skill sets and experiences to the table. The same thing with each of the clouds, right? And our on-prem new stuff, and our legacy. Each one of those has a piece. And so it's not about, oh, let me just chop this up into little pieces and now magically I have containers. Right? It's like, no, here's this. We made a lot of money this way. We want to keep that and then add new things. And as the world transforms, great, we take advantage of, you know, TensorFlow is a great example. The serverless stuff that Amazon has pioneered, the various, hey, we're processing over $1 trillion worth of trade every year. So we've got a lot of processes that are very bulletproof and tested and those sorts of things. It's like, great, you have a great foundation, you're going to take advantage of new things, and that gives us that continuous engine to move forward.
And so, as you said, you know, you're working between these traditional applications and the traditional way of doing things and the go-forward way in terms of how you're modernizing your data center, your cloud, you know, your applications. Do your customers notice any disruption as you're going through this? Because this can't just be all a smooth sailing.
Yes. Well, so there's two types of disruption. There's the, oh crap part, and then there's the, oh, here's all these things we could do, and now we don't know which to do because we have to pick, right? And I think there's some of both, as you say. But it's, like any good technology, you're out there experimenting, right? And I think that's the biggest change in mindset for people is instead of, hey, I'm going to make this big, huge leap all in one go, it's, I'm going to do pieces. And as the teams learn the new ways to do it, hey, what are the ins and outs? It becomes much easier to say, great, we're going to go to your a particular big customer, and they're going to pilot something. So they're going to engage with us, co-develop. Take on some risk to get all this cool new value. And then it becomes a much more dynamic environment for both partners to really succeed.
So John, any last things you would leave us with?
Oh, that's always the tough one.
A loaded question?
Yes. Trim your fingernails. No. From a technology standpoint, is what I was just talking about. You don't have to eat the whole cake at once, right? You'd like have a couple of bites. Maybe you like that dessert. Maybe you want another one. The same thing with technology. Really go out there and play with it, because That, to me, is the biggest enabler right now. There's so much out there, there's so much value that can be created that you can start piecemeal and then guide your way forward. Much more fun.
Yep.
It's less risk and more fun at the same time.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Shuna, as John talked about the piecemeal part of it, here's a case study in terms of we've been working with a Fortune 20 customer for about the last 18 months or so. And especially when you talk about the piecemeal part, we started off working with them around really transforming data center cloud and modernizing their application environment. And we started this with a simplification of and building up their private cloud infrastructure using HyperFlex and Intersight. They're actually evaluating AppD for optimizing their applications. We're currently working with them on deploying Cisco's Azure Stack solution because some of their applications actually is where they want to build up their private stack using Microsoft Azure Stack. And they're actually evaluating Cloud Center in terms of looking at workload optimization as well as mobility. The other thing that we're working with them is around cloud native applications in terms of looking at what is their future strategy around applications that they want to build, whether it's in the IoT or AI ML space. I use this case study because it is a journey at the end of the day, right? It's like not every customer is going to be the same. It's going to be different depending on what is your application, what your business objectives are. So here's something I would say is in terms of an advice. I'd say, no se gano Zamora en una hora. I believe that's the local way of saying Rome wasn't built in a day. And that's really true of your data center and your cloud journey as well. And really pick a partner who looks at it from the perspective of knowing your objectives, knowing your business strategy. Cisco is that partner. So thank you for attending our session today. And please feel free to look for us at our demo and booth sessions as well. Enjoy the rest of Cisco Live. Thanks.